Okay, so good afternoon, one and all. Today I'll be talking about electronically interfaced photovoltaic generator for power quality improvement. So these are the list of contents which I am going to cover during the brief course of this presentation. So before I proceed further, let me spend few minutes pontificating on the need of renewable energy sources. So the skyrocketing demand for energy, depletion of fossil fuels, and poor power, poor power quality problems have always been at the forefront. Moreover, these challenges have encouraged researchers to look for alternative renewable energy sources, including wind turbines and photovoltaics. The photovoltaic units exhibit a unique features which typically include zero cost availability, ability to accommodate the everlasting demand, and zero carbon footprint. These features have generally enabled the PVs to get widespread attention. In the meantime, at present there are two kind of power technologies in operation: standalone, off-grid, or grid integrated system. To achieve the instantaneous power balance, battery energy storage system is inherently employed in the standalone or off-grid system. However, it incurs it incurs additional cost and demand frequent maintenance, which is not good for the system. Therefore, with this in mind, the interconnection of PVs with the established utility grid while discarding the battery energy storage system to attain the grid parity is one of the subjects of high interest. Understandably, in recent past, to attain the implementation of rapid control algorithms, the power distribution network have witnessed a substantial penetration of power electronic based nonlinear loads. These nonlinear loads typically exhibit a discrete switching characteristic. As a result, it pumps harmonics into the grid current. The harmonic introduced into the grid current cause a non-linear voltage drop across the grid impedance. As a result, it introduces distortions in the voltage. Now, when this distorted voltage drives the current, it jeopardizes the operational performance and stability of the linear loads which are connected at the point of common coupling. Therefore, it is of prime significance to come up with the suitable control structures and thereby addressing these power quality challenges. So, at present, it is expected that the current injected by these grid connected inverters into the established utility grid should be of high quality. Generally, the power quality standards of these grid connected inverters are very stringent, and one of the ways to comply is to employ the classical solutions like passive filter and active harmonic filter. However, the additional equipment expense in aspect of this voltage source inverter is really justified. So with this motivation, the goal of this research study was to employ a single multifunctional photovoltaic generator that can address the current related power quality solution that can address the current related power quality challenges while concurrently injecting the active power into the established utility grid. This would be an inexpensive and logical solutions to existing commercial active harmonic filter and grid connected inverter meant for power quality improvement and active power injection into the utility grid respectively. In this context, a two-level voltage source inverter is prevalent owing to its capability to generate the control harmonics in the inverter output current while concurrently injecting the active power into the utility grid. It also enables effective active and reactive power transactions with the established utility grid. So I have presented so this is the pictorial representation of electronically interfaced multifunctional photovoltaic generator. Apparently, the PV arrays are connected to the DC side collector bus through DC to DC converter. The fundamental objective of employing this DC to DC converter is to escalate the voltage generated by this PV array and thereby ensuring the instantaneous power balance between the DC bus and PV unit. Besides, it is also responsible for recognizing the maximum power point It addresses the non-linearity introduced by the PV array and harvests the maximum power from the PV unit. Furthermore, this VSI, that is a voltage source inverter. So in this case, I have used a 3-phase 4-wire topology. So this is 3-phase 4-wire topology. In this case, the fourth arm of the inverter bridge is strategically controlled to support the neutral current demand of this load, neutral current demand of the unbalanced load. As a result, unconditionally balanced and sinusoidal grid currents can be ensured at the utility grid side. I have chosen this 3-phase 4-wire topology over its conventional counterpart like 3H bridge topologies and split capacitor topology because this topology is a competent candidate as it provides direct control over the neutral current. This is why I have opted this 3-phase 4-wire topology. So here I have used the anti-parallel diode connected across the IGBT switches. So the fundamental reason of employing this anti-parallel diode is to provide the freewheeling path during the energy discharge in case of inductive loads. Here a small resistor is connected in series with this. This is ceramic capacitor. So this makes up a RC snubber circuit. So in practice, the grid interface PV system frequently experience load perturbation and solar intermittency. As a result, the voltage across the switch may exceed its permissible limit. Therefore, to safeguard the power electronic switch, RC snubber circuit is used. In this case, when the switch is subjected to a high voltage, dV by dt triggering may occur. dV by dt triggering may occur. In this duration, this capacitor acts as a short circuit for instant of high voltage across the switch, and thus the voltage across the switch will be reduced to 0. In the meantime, this overall configuration experiences low impedance path, and therefore during the discharging period of this capacitor, a high discharging current would flow through this circuit, and therefore a resistor is connected in series with this capacitor to limit the current flowing through this capacitor. Once the fault is disappeared, the capacitor is charged again through the anti-parallel diode. Further, this VSI voltage source inverter is interfaced to the established utility grid through this interfacing inductor. The fundamental objective of employing this interfacing inductor is to suppress the switching ripples present in the inverter output current and to improve the quality of the current injected into the utility grid. Besides, it also operates as a voltage equalization medium between the VSI and the grid. It is important to mention that the effectiveness of this inductive filter is largely depends on the grid impedance. Therefore, it is of prime significance to ensure a special care while implementing and designing this interfacing inductor. The breakers connected at the output of this output at the AC terminal of VSI is primarily responsible for protecting and isolating the inverter assets during the transient faults. So, okay. So these topologies, these power conversion topologies can be classified into two categories. It could be considered as a single stage topology or double stage topology. Apparently, the single stage structure is devoid of additional voltage boosting stage, and thus it can be considered as a competent supplement to its conventional counterpart like double stage topology in aspects of efficiency, reliability, size, and cost. However, in case of single stage topology, when the load is unbalanced, the VSI when the load is unbalanced, and if the harmonic compensation is to be, it results into the second order harmonic power pulsation. On the other hand, in case of double topology, the DC to DC converter operates as a decoupling medium between the PV unit and the DC side collector bus, and thus it suppresses this. It prevents this second order harmonic power pulsation from moving from DC side to the AC side of the current. Thereafter, this is the complete system architecture. So in this case, I'll primarily emphasize on how to develop or how to implement a control algorithm into a DSpace. So firstly, you need to sense the three-phase instantaneous voltages. So to sense that, in this case, I have used LEM make LV25 sensor. This sensor can sense the input voltage in the range of 10 volts to 500 volts. However, the output of this LEM make LV25 sensor is in millivolts. Similarly, to measure the current, I have employed LEM make LA55 sensor. The output of this sensor is in volts, not in the currents, not in the milliamps. Okay, so both in case of these LEM sensors, the outputs are in the millivolts, which cannot be directly applied to the ADC of this DSpace 1104, as the ADC of the DSpace 1104 expects the signal in the range of plus or minus 10 volts, and therefore to amplify this signal, a TL081 based analog circuit is employed. So this circuit is primarily responsible for amplifying this millivolt signal from millivolts to a certain. After the signals are subsequently assigned to the specific ADCs of the DSpace 1104. So now you have these three-phase instantaneous voltages, three-phase instantaneous currents, and you will sense the DC link voltage. So again, this, for sensing the DC link voltage, you can use the LEM make LV25 sensor. Again, it will be amplified and it will be applied to a specific ADC. So you can look at here, see here. These ADCs, these gains like 1.16, 1.11, these gains indicates the gains of the current transducers, whereas this 49.79 or in this range gains, this indicates the voltage transducers gain. So after that, see here, in case of DSpace 1104, there are total eight number of ADCs. So I've already used the 7 ADCs. So now I cannot implement the maximum power point tracking algorithm in the DSpace 1104. So I have used the another controller, that is your commercial cheap microcontroller like ARM Cortex based STM32F407 VGT6 controller. In this case also you need to sense the voltage across the PV panel and the current, and these signals will be further utilized to track the maximum power point. So now you have how many signals? You have these three voltage signals, 3 current signals, 1 DC link voltage, and 2 signals. So this maximum power point tracking task will be performed by this STM32 based controller, whereas the voltage source inverter, the gating pulses for the voltage source inverter will be generated by this DSpace 1104. So once these signals are applied to the DSpace 1104, you can see here it is worth highlighting that the DSpace ADC of the DSpace 1104 has a gain of 1/10. So this gain is this is inherent gain of the ADC. This is there because it protects, like in case that if you have applied more than 10 volts, in that case it protects the ADC from this high voltage signal. So let's say you have applied, you have given the 50 volt signal to this ADC. So inside the controller, it will be considered like 50/10. So 5 volt signal. So that is well within the acceptable threshold of this plus or minus 10 volts. So here, therefore, when you take the signals into the controller, you have to multiply that signal with the 10, that is the ADC gain, to get the actual signal. And thereafter, you are expected to multiply with the sensor gain. So how to find the sensor gain? Let's say you have this millivolt signal here, and then you have amplified the signal, let's say to a certain volt. So this is 100 volt. And this is after amplification, the voltage is, let's say, somewhere around 0.6 volt. Okay, so 0.6 divided by 100, that will give you the gain of the AD. That will give you the gain of the sensor. That gain will be multiplied. So here you have this actual signal which you have sensed. So let's say this 100 volt signal, you will get that 100 volt signal at this point. Similarly, the gains of the the ADC gains of the other sensors will be multiplied, and you can have the actual signals like 3-phase currents, 3-phase voltages, and VDC. Similarly, you can have the maximum MPP voltage and MPP current. Now, once this control algorithm is realized, it will generate the pulses. So in this case, as I have mentioned previously, that I have used 3-phase 4-wire topology. So here these this D space 1104, look at here, this control algorithm will be processed. It will generate 4 pulses, that is S1, S3, S5, S7. Okay, these 4 pulses will be applied to the analog IC, that is 7404. This is nothing but the NOT gate. Okay, so this NOT gate will generate the complementary pulses. So now I will have a total of 8 gate pulses. These gate pulses will be applied to the deadband circuit. So what is the requirement of this deadband circuit? Actually, the discrete IGBTs exhibit an infinite time delay during the on state and off state, and therefore a small time interval during which both the upper and lower switches are off. So what is the requirement? Let's say you applied a gate pulse to this circuit and you have the complementary pulse. You applied the complementary gate pulse to the S2. Now, when you turn off this, so before you turn off this, this S2 will be turned on, and therefore there will be overlap. During this time, there will be a shoot through. The moment when I say shoot through essentially means a short circuit. So it will short circuit with the source, which is not desirable. And therefore a deadband time, that is also called as a blanking time, is required to be introduced between the upper and lower switches of the same phase arm. So this will dramatically avoid this shoot through or short circuit phenomena. So in this case, I have introduced 3.2 microseconds between the upper and lower gate pulses of the same phase arm. Subsequently, these pulses are given to the signal amplification and isolation board. So here it is important to mention that the gate pulses generated by these controllers are in the range of 0 to 5 volts, and hence it cannot be directly applied to these discrete IGBTs, as this discrete IGBTs expects a plus 15 volt signal between the gate and emitter terminal, and therefore this 5 volt signal is required to be amplified. So to do that, I have employed TLP250 based IC. So this TLP250 based IC not only amplifies the input gate pulse signal from plus 5 volts to 15 volts, but it also provides the galvanic isolation between the primary low power circuit and secondary high power circuit. Then after these amplified pulses will be given to the specific IGBTs. Besides, I have also generated the minus 5 volt supply. This is due to the fact that IGBTs have a lower switching speed, and therefore to ensure the proper commutation of the IGBTs, minus 5 volt supply is also given during the turn off or during the commutation period. So this will ensure the effective commutation of the IGBTs. Here you can see I have these gains. Okay, so this is the control algorithm which I'm going to discuss in later part of this presentation. Now this is the PI controller that you can implement into a DSpace 1104 or to say any controller. Okay, so these 3 signals will be subsequently processed, and the actual and reference grid currents will be compared, which will generate error that will be processed through the relay, and it will generate the pulses for the IGBTs of the inverter. Here, one important thing that I would like to mention is that in case of DSpace 1104, the ADC of the DSpace 1104 accepts this input signal in the range of plus or minus 10 volts. Here, the ADC of the DSpace 1104 is bipolar in nature. Whereas if I talk about the DSP, the ADC of the DSP is unipolar in the nature. However, these signals are bipolar. So therefore, you need to have the phase shifting circuit that can help you to convert this bipolar signal into the unipolar signal. You cannot directly apply this bipolar signal to the unipolar ADC in case of DSP, not in DSpace. Okay, so this needs to be remembered. One another thing is that the ADC of the DSP generally accepts the signal in the range of 0 to 5 volt, or if I talk about the commercial chip microcontroller, the ADC accepts the signal in the range of 0 to 3.3 volts. So if the signal is in the range beyond 3.3 volts, then it cannot accept that signal, and therefore you need to ensure that the input signal that you have applied to this ADC of the DSP or commercial chip microcontroller, it should be well within the 0 to 3.3 volts. It should not be more than that. However, in case of DSpace, you can have the signal beyond the 5 volt. That can be pretty acceptable. So that's fine for the DSpace. So proceeding further, this is the complete setup. As you can see, this is the inverter circuit. This is your boost converter at this point. So I have used the live solar panels. I have not used the solar emulators to mimic the characteristic of the solar PV array. In fact, I have used the live solar panels. So I have used 500 watt solar panels. That is 250 watt SUCAM solar panels. I have connected two of them in series. Okay, the parameters will be discussed in the subsequent slides. So this DC bus, then after this inverter, this is three-phase 4-legged inverter. This is your sensor configuration, and this is your DSpace 1104. Okay, so these parts I'm skipping this part as it will be discussed on Monday. So okay, I have an announcement to make. So maybe if you have any questions pertaining to hardware development, then I expect that then you are expected to be present on Monday at 5 o'clock. So what we can do, we can spare a half hour to address the queries regarding the hardware development, and I would be the happiest to address the queries. So those who are interested, they can join the session on Monday 5 o'clock in evening. Okay, so here the key purpose of this slide is to emphasize on the challenges or the drawbacks of the existing control structure and the need to refine the current control loop of the grid interfaced PV system. So as you might aware that the presence of windowed integrated and one cycle delay with the frequency domain techniques have encouraged of the time domain techniques. In case of the instantaneous PQ theory and synchronous reference frame theory are the two most basic and widely employed theories. If I talk about the existing prevalent PQ theory, then if the input voltages are unbalanced and contaminated with the harmonics, then the PQ algorithm introduces undesired harmonics into the reference grid current. As a result, a constant real and imaginary components will be introduced into the reference grid current, which is not desirable in the modern sinusoidal generation system. Furthermore, if this PQ algorithm, in case of the PQ algorithm, if P tilt or Q tilt, that is your imaginary or oscillating components of the power, so if these two are considered to calculate the compensating commands, then the harmonic components will be introduced into the reference current, which were originally not present into the input load current signal, contaminated with the harmonics. So as a result, what will happen? A hidden current will be appeared with the maximum magnitude, which is not desired. So with an intention to address these detriments, the researchers were switched from the instantaneous PQ theory to this synchronous reference frame theory. Now this synchronous reference frame theory works absolutely fine during the steady state operation. However, when the loads are unbalanced or when the input load current signal is contaminated with the harmonic, so in that case the third order harmonic component would be the dominant component. So before I talk about the issues with this SRF theory, let me spend a few minutes pontificating on the need to convert these three-phase instantaneous voltage or currents into a DQ or synchronously rotating DQ reference frame. So the fundamental objective to transform these three-phase instantaneous voltages and currents into a DQ reference frame is to make the computations easier. This is the fundamental reason. Second is that here the operator can control the active and reactive component of the current independently. So this direct axis component indicates the active component of the current, whereas this ILQ typically implies the reactive component of the current. So this operator can independently current both the active as well as the reactive component of the current. Similarly, if I talk about machines, then the torque and flux can be independently controlled, and as a result the coupling effect can be minimized to a great extent. So this is this is one of the reasons that what is the requirement of converting or transforming these three-phase instantaneous voltages and currents into the DQ reference frame. Another important thing is that in case of this DQ frame, what will happen? The mutual inductance effect is 0. So the parameters which are dependent on the inductance, these parameters can be these parameters are constant, and therefore it allows the operator to achieve the desired control targets. Secondly, the thing is that if I talk about this PI controller, so let me talk about the concept. So this proportional integral based feedback controller has a pole at the origin. So the moment when I say the pole at the origin, it means S is equal to 0, and therefore it introduced infinite gain when exposed to the DC quantities. So let me put it in other way. So okay, so let me write the transfer function. So that is your Kp plus Ki by S. Okay, so here as I said that it has a pole at the origin. So S is equal to nothing but the S tends to JW. Okay, now you know what is JW. That JW is equal to this W is nothing but the 2 pi F. Okay, what is the frequency in DC? That is 0. So that is 1 by 0 that gives you infinite gain. Okay, but you need to understand that the PI controller introduces infinite gain only when it is exposed to the DC or constant quantities. On the contrary, if the input quantities to the PI controller is AC or periodic in the nature, then PI controller miserably fails to introduce the infinite gain, and hence the state will not be. So PI controller should not be employed to track the AC current or to minimize the steady state error in case of the AC current. However, in case of DC, it's absolutely fine to employ the PI controller, and you can have the zero steady state error at this point. So when you transform these three-phase instantaneous voltage and currents into a DQ frame, the control would be much easier because you have this PI controller and that can operate effectively with the DC quantities. Okay, so this provides the magnitude of the current. Okay, this provides the magnitude of the current. Now these quantities will be subsequently processed and generates the reference compensating command. Now what is the general phenomena behind this active harmonic filter? So let me show you this. So see, the final aim is to generate the reference grid currents. So there could be 1,000 ways to generate the reference grid currents. Okay, so let me show you how it can be controlled. Okay, just a moment. So let's consider this as a reference grid current which you have generated through the control algorithm. Okay, and this is your actual grid current which looks something like this. Okay, so how if you take this as a reference grid current and this is the actual grid current, now when the active harmonic filter is disabled, okay, the grid current and load current both are identical, and that will look something like this. Okay, non-sinusoidal, because it is contaminated with the harmonic. So the idea is that you need to somehow generate the reference grid current which looks sinusoidal, and then after what you have to do, you have to compare this sinusoidal waveform with this actual grid current, and how the difference of these two will look like. See here. So if you minus this actual grid current from the reference grid current, it will look something like this. Okay, it will look some, this is your compensating command. Okay, so these compensating currents will be processed through the hysteresis current controller, and that will generate the pulses for the IGBTs of the inverter. As I mentioned that there could be 1,000 ways to generate this reference grid currents. Okay, and one of the ways is through this synchronously rotating reference frame. Now see, the thing is here, what have you done with this low pass filter? So you have this d axis component and q axis component. So this direct axis component, this component actually implies the active, reactive and harmonic components. Okay, so what you want to do, you want to remove the harmonic components. Okay, so you employed the low pass filter. What it will do, it will extract the DC component. This DC component is nothing but the average component or the fundamental component of the load current. So it will give you the magnitude. Okay, let's say the load current, the peak to peak load current is let's say 20 ampere. Okay, so that will give you the 20 as a average component, this 20. So but this is the DC component. Okay, this is a DC component. So how will you generate this reference grid current? So what will happen, what you will do, then you will multiply this with the unit vector templates. So these unit vector templates are nothing but the voltage templates with the amplitude of 1. Okay, so when you multiply this 20 with this one, so it will increase the magnitude, something like this. Okay, so this would be your reference current, and then you subtract this actual current from this reference grid current, and you will have this compensating command. So this is the most commonly employed techniques, and this is the way, this is the only way through which you can generate this reference current, and this is how the procedure. So now what is the problem with this low pass filter? Actually, in case of if this synchronously rotating reference frame theory is employed to address the power quality solutions with the balanced load, then it works absolutely fine during the steady state operation. However, if the loads are unbalanced, then third order harmonic component is the dominant component. Okay, in that case, you have to set the cutoff frequency of this low pass filter to be very low. But when you set the cutoff frequency of this low pass filter to be very low, it leads to a problem. That problem is nothing but the ingrained paradox between the steady state operation and transient response, which is not desirable. Okay, so during the steady state operation, it works absolutely fine. But during the transient operation, it introduces one AC cycle time delay, which is not desirable, as we expect that the dynamic response of the system should be as fast as possible. So to address this detriment, what have I done? So please pay attention at this point. So what I have done, I have tuned this filter for the third order harmonic component. So what it will do, it will introduce infinite gain at the third order harmonic component. So it rejects the third order harmonic component, and thereby it minimizes the steady state errors into the output current. As a result, I do not have to keep the cutoff frequency of this low pass filter to be very low. What I have done, I have set the cutoff frequency of this low pass filter to be 50. In earlier case, the cutoff frequency of this low pass filter was somewhere around 5 Hz or 10 Hz, but it leads to a ingrained paradox between the steady state and dynamic response, and therefore to address this problem, I have set this cutoff frequency as a 50, and I have tuned this filter at the third harmonic, so it introduces infinite gain at the third harmonic. So here you have the fundamental signal. Okay, so this is your fundamental in-phase signal, and this is your fundamental quadrature signal. Now you might have come across a certain research publications where the researchers have used zero crossing detector to detect the phase angle of the input voltage signals. Okay, but I have discarded this zero crossing detector. This is due to the fact that the zero crossing detector is prone to signal jitters, especially when the voltages are contaminated with the harmonics, and its response is observed to be sluggish, and therefore I have discarded the zero crossing detector from here. So this loop is, I have called it as an active current control. You can see here. Okay, so in this case, you have this fundamental signal. Okay, this fundamental signal essentially implies the active as well as the reactive component of the load current, but this is the fundamental signal. Okay, so these are all these you have this absolute value, as I mentioned previously, that you have the DC or average values. Okay, so what you will do, you will process. So what I have done, similarly I have detected the fundamental active and reactive components of the current for the three phases. I have processed these signals, and here I have added these three signals and divided by these three to balance the magnitudes. Okay, so let me consider that for this case, the for R phase, the magnitude of the fundamental component is 15. Okay, this is a DC value. Okay, so now this DC value, what I have done, this DC value will be multiplied with this unit vector template. See here. Okay, this is a sinusoidal voltage with amplitude of 1, so it will be multiplied. So again, as I mentioned, that you have this reference grid current, but now it is an amplified version. Okay, earlier it was an amplitude of 1 and now it is multiplied with this 15. So this is an error signal, it will be multiplied. This will be considered as your reference grid current, and your actual grid current will be deducted, and this will give you the compensating commands. Okay, so here, see here, to counter the non-linearity introduced by the PV array. Okay, so why this PV array is a non-linear? See, if you look at this expression, that is your P is that power is equal to, power is a product of voltage and current. Okay, voltage and current. Okay, so this fact makes the PV array to behave as a non-linear device. Okay, so the moment when I say non-linear, it means the solar insolation and temperature frequently varies, and as a result, the power output is a function of solar insolation and temperature. And therefore, to counter the non-linearity introduced by the PV array, feed forward compensator loop. This is not a feedback loop, unlike the proportional integral. This is a feed forward compensator loop. Okay, so what it does, before this error is introduced into this DC component, okay, it will counter the non-linearity. It will counter the adverse impacts caused by the non-linearity of the PV's array. Okay, so it helps to improve the dynamic performance, especially during the transition in the solar insolation level. Okay, so these components are subsequently processed and reference grid currents are generated. So this is your reference grid currents. Okay, this is your actual grid currents, and the error between these two will be processed through this hysteresis current controller, and that will generate the pulses for the discrete IGBTs. Now look at here. See, at present, there arises a question that be the PV inverter should be the PV inverter allowed to provide the reactive power support as and when required. Okay, this has been one of the subjects of high interest. Okay, so I want you to understand that at present, if you refer the IEEE standard 1547, that is a 2003 standard, IEEE 1547.2, okay, then reactive power support is forbidden. Reactive power support through these PV inverters are forbidden. However, the potential of this reactive power support capability of the inverter will be anticipated to be recognized as the penetration of the renewable energies will increase. Okay, so now you can see that in recent past, okay, the power distribution network has witnessed a substantial penetration of the renewable energy sources, and in fact, this distribution network is frequently subjected to this voltage swag or voltage swell, and therefore it is essential to utilize the PV inverter reactive power capability to address this voltage sag or swell phenomena and ensure a superior operation during these preceding events. Okay, so there could be two ways. The one way is to ensure the unity power factor operation. So in that case, you will only compensate the load. You will only compensate the reactive current demand of the load, and this is how, and therefore the reactive power supplied by the utility grid will be dropped. Okay, and as a result, the power factor of the utility grid will be improved to unity. Another way is to provide the dynamic reactive power compensation. For that, what you need to do, you need to sense the grid voltages or at the PCC voltages. Okay, then after you need to process these PCC voltages, and you need to detect the fundamental positive sequence component of the utility grade voltages. It might be the case that these PCT voltages are contaminated with the harmonics, and therefore it cannot be utilized to provide the dynamic reactive power compensation, and therefore it is essential to detect or decompose the fundamental positive sequence components of the utility grade voltages. These grid voltages are subsequently compared with the reference PCC voltages. That could be your 415 volts. Okay, that is your line-to-line volt, and it will be processed through this PI compensator. And this is how you can generate the signals to provide the dynamic reactive power compensation. So here, even to generate this unit vector template, I have used the band pass filter with the lowest cutoff frequency. You can see here this is the discrete version of the band pass filter. So what it will do, it will detect or extract the fundamental positive sequence components of the utility grade voltages. These components are subsequently utilized to calculate the unit vector templates to generate the reference grid currents.
Sir, I have
Okay.
a doubt. Sir, I have a doubt.
Yes. Tell me.
The previous plot. Sir, we discussed about that the PI controller that works fine for the DC quantities. So
Yes.
side that we peak voltage we are finding now, there the PI controller is being
See,
set.
you need to take the RMS value of the voltage actually. It's not the peak value.
Okay. And secondly, what is the role of that FFCL? It is for
Yeah, that is a feed forward compensator loop.
okay, and anything in this control is incorporated regarding that kind of islanding part of this?
No, islanding is not. This is a
PV
grid
system.
system. So when the grid is available, then only it operates. But you can definitely have the islanding detection scheme. Okay. The thing is that you need to have the current control instead of voltage control. You need to implement. So you see here, this is a voltage sourced inverter with the current control loop. Okay. And in case of islanding, you are expected to have the constant voltage and constant frequency during the islanding operation. So that can also be employed. Okay, that is not an issue. Yeah, so you just need to modify this. This control algorithm to detect the islanding. Okay, and the same control algorithm can be extended for the islanding scheme also. Yes.
Sir, can you again explain this FFCL loop? What is the exact use
FFCL.
of FFCL
See here.
in this control?
Okay, so the thing is that you might have seen the characteristic of the. Okay, let me quickly. Okay. So please have a look at this point. Okay. See, now what is the thing? As you can see that the output characteristic of the PV module is non-linear. It is not a linear. How it can be seen? Because the current is not linearly varying with the voltage, isn't it? So the thing is that what makes it to behave as a non-linear? It is due to the fact that the product of voltage and current, that is a power. Okay, so it makes the PV array to operate as a non-linear. Okay, non-linear, it means if there is a fluctuation in the input parameters like the temperature and solar insolation level, okay, the output power is constantly changing. Okay, but what you are expecting a constant output power. Okay, so how can you ensure a constant output power? So to ensure a constant output power, you need to detect the true maximum power point. You need to detect the true maximum power point. Okay, but the thing is that this operating point is constantly moving on the left hand side of the MPP curve or on the right hand side of the MPP curve. Okay, so this causes the oscillations in the current control loop. This causes the undesired oscillations in the current control loop. So what we do, we actually have the feed forward compensator term. Okay. So we have the feed forward compensator term. In that case, what you will do, you will have this voltage signal. So that is 2P by VT, this VT. So this is the equation, and that equation will help you to minimize the adverse impacts caused due to the non-linearity of the PV array. Okay, so before it affects the performance of the system, it will be mitigated. See here, it will be mitigated from the actual response. So this is the objective of this feed forward control loop.
Okay, means there may be some fluctuations out of this DC voltage regulation, na?
Yes,
So
yes.
those will be mitigated by this FFCL loop.
FFCL.
So what kind of waveform we can expect out of this FFCL loop?
No, see, this is a constant. This is a DC. Okay, you have this is nothing but the output of the PI controller. Okay, as far as this FFCL is considered, okay, you will have a DC waveform with some errors. Okay.
Okay, okay.
So this error is constantly changing as the output power changes. This error will change accordingly.
And this compensator is the compensator having also some there may be some.
This is nothing but the PI compensator. This is nothing. This is nothing but the PI compensator. That's
So
your
this-
KP plus KI by S.
So these ripples are subtracted from this FFCL. Means
Yes.
whatever there will be ripples in the compensator, they are mitigated by this.
As I mentioned, that the impact of this PV array non-linearity will be mitigated prior to it affects the performance of the grid interface PV system. This is our objective.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah, welcome. So in this, so the key purpose of this slide is to study
Excuse me, sir. One more doubt in that previous one.
Yeah, tell.
Sir, for tracking the phase angle,
Yes.
so what you are not using here PLL.
No, I am not using the PLL.
So how you are getting the phase angle, sir, of the grid?
So instead of phase angle, you can have the unit vector templates. Okay.
Okay.
So these unit vector templates will be multiplied with this current, and this will ensure the synchronization with the utility grid.
Sir, the grid actual phase, what is the grid actual phase? How you will get with this unit vector template?
Oh, no. I think you are getting me wrong. Okay. So you need to understand. See, there are two ways. Okay. There are two ways. One is through PLL. Okay. So you will have the phase angle.
Yes.
Okay. You will have the phase angle. Now here, you do not need the phase angle. Why? Because you have the unit vector templates. These unit vector templates will be further utilized to detect the phase angle. How the phase angle will be detected? It will be detected through ZCD, zero crossing detector.
Zero crossing detector.
Yeah, zero crossing detector. See here.
Okay, sir. Again, one more doubt here. My question:
Yes,
this
tell me.
zero crossing detector will have some reference value.
Yeah, it will have some reference value.
So
See here,
when
what is the reference
okay.
value?
Yes, sir. So, sir, when there will be a fault in the system,
Yes.
then all of a sudden your voltage might go to zero, near about to zero.
No, voltage cannot be zero actually. There might be a swell or there might be a sag in the voltage.
Sir, if it is a strong three-phase to ground fault,
Okay.
three-phase to ground fault in the system.
Okay.
Now this zero crossing detector will work on some reference value. So
Yes.
means how much sag you have considered for this system can operate till how much fall in the voltage? If the fall in the voltage is suppose 90%.
Yes.
So whether this system will be able to synchronize at that moment?
So see, generally I have considered that for the distribution system, I have considered that allowable limit is, I think, plus or minus 10 volts. Okay.
So yeah, sir, I can understand you have allowed 10 volt. But in the practical scenario today, if we are
Yes.
integrating our solar system to the grid, okay. So nowadays, what I have seen through the literature that previously our system was getting disconnected till the grid comes to the normal position. But now we cannot disconnect our system from the grid because penetration of PV cell is increasing day by day.
Yeah. Okay. So let me address your queries. Okay. Let me address your query. So the thing is that, see here, as I mentioned, that this system is facilitated with this dynamic reactive power compensation. Okay. So if there is a voltage sag in the power system, okay. So what will happen? This PCC voltage controller this PCC voltage controller kicks in and provide the dynamic reactive power support to ensure the balanced grid voltages. Okay. But one more thing that I would like to mention is that if the change in the voltage is prohibitively high, okay,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
if the reactive cannot provide that much amount of reactive power support, okay, then the inverter is asked to stay connected but not inject any amount of reactive power into the grid.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so in that case, the inverter is asked to stay connected. Okay, but it will not inject. It means the active power output of the inverter is 0. Okay,
Yes.
so once
Yes.
this fault is disappeared, the power generation from the renewables will be ramped up. Okay, see, it is not a step. Okay, you need to understand it will be ramped up.
Okay.
Okay, it will be ramped up and maintained to a certain level. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. One another point that you need to understand is that this ramp is controlled only in the upward direction. Okay. This ramp is only
So some
controlled in the
disturbance
upward
is there.
direction.
Somebody
However,
more is speaking. Some
the
disturbance.
downward ramp cannot be controlled until and unless you install the battery energy storage system. Okay. So when I say the downward ramp control, okay, what does it means? If you have if the system is subjected to a solar abrupt change in the solar insolation,
Sir, sorry
okay,
to interrupt, but some disturbance. Somebody's mic is not muted and traffic sound is coming. I cannot hear you, sir. Please wait.
I request Mr. Manoj Kumawat sir to request the participants to mute their microphones. Kindly mute your mics. If you do not have the questions, kindly mute your mic.
Yes, sir. Now,
Shall I proceed?
yes, sir.
Okay. So as I mentioned, that once the fault is disappeared, please mute your mics. Okay. So once the fault is disappeared, the power generation from the renewable energy sources will be ramped up. Okay. But you need to understand that this power generation, this power generation in a ramp fashion can only be controlled in the upward direction. However,
Okay.
the downward ramp, the power reduction in the downward cannot be controlled. Why it cannot be controlled? Let's assume a case that the system is subjected to a abrupt change in the solar insolation level. Okay, in that case, what will happen? Let's say for at t is equal to 0, the solar insolation level is 1 kilowatt per meter square. Okay, and at t is equal to 1 second, the solar insolation level is dropped from 1 kilowatt per meter square to 0.4 kilowatt per meter square. In that case, the power output from the solar PV is reduced. Okay. Now
Yes,
in this case, you cannot ensure a constant power output. Okay. But to ensure the constant power output, there is a way. Okay. So how you can ensure a constant power output? You can have the battery energy storage system.
Okay.
You can have the battery energy storage system connected at the front end DC link capacitor. Okay, so that will help you to control the power reduction. Okay, in the ramp fashion. Otherwise, it will be reduced in the step fashion. There will be a steep drop in the power output, which is not expected. Okay, so that can be controlled with the battery energy storage system. I hope I have answered your query.
Sir, I have understood, but 100% I have not understand. In one line,
tell me what is the doubt?
Only one. If there is an unbalanced fault on the grid,
okay,
unbalanced fault, and this system is connected to the grid with this topology of control,
okay,
whether this system is in a position to remain synchronized during the unbalanced fault.
See, it's not that it will be synchronized, because to ensure the synchronism, okay, to ensure the synchronization, the voltage signal should be there. Okay, so if there is a fault, and as you mentioned that voltage signals are not available, okay, in that case the system will be connected to the power system, but it will not inject any amount of active or reactive power into the grid.
Neither reactive also, sir.
Yeah, see, reactive power is injected only if if it can control that much amount of voltage seg. But if it is beyond that, okay, if it is beyond the inverter's reactive power current capability, okay, then it cannot control that voltage seg. Okay, in that case, the inverter will be asked to stay connected, but not to provide any amount of active power or reactive power support.
So you mean to say that it will be with the grid, but it will be of no use. Neither it will give active power nor it will give reactive power.
Yeah, but it is connected. See, earlier what was happening? Earlier, if you refer the IEEE standard 1547, okay. So
Yes.
during the faults, the inverters were asked to isolate from the grid. Okay.
Yes,
But the problem is that there might be a case that the fault is disappeared within a few seconds. Okay. Now what will happen? There is a no generation.
Yes.
Okay. There is a no generation, and to connect these PVs, okay. To connect these PVs, it will take another half an hour to connect all these PV inverters. Okay, so this is not a good solution. So what they have done, they have asked these PV inverters to stay connected, but not to inject any amount of active power or reactive power. Okay, if the voltage seg is well within the acceptable threshold, okay, or if it is well within the reactive power, reactive current capability of the inverter, then in that case, this inverter will provide the reactive power support, and voltage seg can be compensated. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sir.
One more analysis out of this
Sir.
discussion.
Yes, sir.
Sir, one more thing. Whatever you have explained, I have understood your point, sir.
Yes.
Right now, when I am referring some recent literature of this, some virtual synchronous machine concept is coming in the picture.
Yeah, so this can also be used, virtual synchronous machine. These PV inverters are nothing but these PV inverters can effectively mimic the characteristic of the classical synchronous generator.
Okay, sir.
You know, so if you really want to operate these PV inverters as a synchronous generator, or you really want them to mimic the characteristic of the synchronous generator, then you need to have the battery energy storage system.
Yes, sir.
Okay, see why the inertia is required. Let me give you an example. In case of the classical synchronous generator system, if there is a power imbalance between the generation and source, okay, what will happen if the load is suddenly increased? Okay, the frequency drops. How this frequency drops? Because the speed of the generator drops. Okay, so when the speed of the generator drops, this power imbalance can be compensated or mitigated by the energy stored in the rotational mass, that is the kinetic energy. Okay, so that kinetic energy will be utilized to compensate this power imbalances. Okay, in the meantime, the hydraulic valves will be opened, okay, and steam flow would be increased. Okay, as a result, the speed of the generator will be increased, and again the frequency will be ensured to be 50 hertz. Okay, this is how the generation to be. But in case of the inverter, if you do not have the battery energy storage system, okay, and if the load demand is increased, okay, how will you control the frequency? Since you cannot ask the PV arrays to generate the more amount of power. Okay, so you have to have the battery energy storage system. If you have the battery energy storage system, you can ask this battery energy storage system to provide this additional power during the sudden transition in the load, and this is how the frequency can be maintained well within the acceptable threshold of plus or minus 0.5.
Okay, sir. Sir, last question, sir. This ZCD, what you are using, zero crossing detector.
Yes.
So here you are using it as a non-linear. Have you taken the dynamics, non-linear dynamics or linear dynamics of this?
See the fundamental objective of employing zero crossing detector is to detect the phase angle of the input voltage signals. Okay, but the problem, what is the problem? I'm not considering any dynamics. Okay, but the problem with the ZCD is that, let's consider that if the input voltages are unbalanced and contaminated with the harmonics, okay, then the zero crossing detector, in practice, the zero crossing detector miserably fails to provide the accurate phase angle detection. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Besides, its response is observed to be sluggish. Okay. Yes. So I have actually in this case you can have this zero, okay, for the unity power factor operation, and this is why I have discarded the zero crossing detector from the active current control loop.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, this is one of the reasons that why I have discarded the zero crossing detector. However, in case of this reactive power compensation, I couldn't find any suitable alternative to replace this zero crossing detector. So as far as this reactive power compensation loop is considered, it still has zero crossing detector, but in active current control loop, I have discarded the zero crossing detector.
So here, sir, there is a scope of research means here ZCD.
Yeah, this is a research gap. As I mentioned, this is a research gap that can you have the alternative ways of implementing this current control loop where you can completely discard the use of this zero crossing detector.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, so now I'll come to that. I've also implemented this weight extraction phenomena where you do not need the zero crossing detector. I'll come to that.
Because my research is going on this topic only, and therefore I was asking, sir.
Yeah, so I have answered your queries, or do you still have some doubts?
No, sir. No, sir. No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, shall I proceed now?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, excuse me, sir.
Yeah, tell me.
One more doubt arises from this discussion.
Yes.
As we discussed, according to it, we can't use this PV system without battery connected with the grid.
No, so we can use, but if you
When
really,
people- yeah, when people go for grid connectivity, they would like to eliminate the battery. And
yeah. So
it comes
that's what
to
I have
with-
mentioned in the first slide.
Yeah, so from discussion, we again come to certain conclusion that under that abrupt change in the conditions or kind of things, battery is mandatory.
Yeah, see, the thing is that if you see, you still have a synchronous generator, okay? So these
Yeah.
inverters are there, but you still have the synchronous generator. So if there is a sudden transition, if there is if the load is increased by let's say a 10% or 20%, okay, in that case the utility grid will provide the additional power to the load, okay. But if you want these inverters to provide the additional power, okay, then you cannot ask the PVRS to generate the more amount of active power because that is not possible. Okay, so in that case, if you want the virtual inertia concept, that's a virtual inertia. Okay, in case of synchronous generator, you have the rotational mass, you have the flywheel. Okay, that will provide the additional energy in case of the load transitions. Okay, here you can have the battery energy storage system to provide the additional energy, and thereby you can ensure the frequency regulation. Okay, so it is only required if you want these PV inverters to mimic the operational characteristic of the synchronous generator. Otherwise, it is not required.
Okay, sir. Got it,
Okay,
got it.
so generally this battery energy storage system is inherently employed in the standalone system. Okay, because there you do not have the established utility grid to provide the active power support in case of the load transitions. Okay,
Yes, got
but
it.
in case of the grid interactive system, you have the established utility grid. Okay, so the continuity of the power supply will be ensured. Yeah,
Okay.
I have answered your query.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Yeah, got it.
Okay.
Sir, can I add something in this?
Yeah, tell me.
Sir, actually, when PV generation is connected with the system for the utility, and if there is a deficit of the supply from that PV generation, then it is not necessary to install the battery because now the import and export meters are used and net metering system is there. In that case, the supply will be made available from the utility. It is not necessary the consumer should have the battery at the time.
No, that's what I have said. Now, see, you have the established utility grid to ensure the continuity of the power supply. So if I talk about the grid interactive system, okay, you actually do not need the battery energy storage system. However, if I talk about the standalone or off-grid system, and there you do not have the support of this utility grid. In that case, if there is a load transition and if you need the additional energy, okay, so you have to have the battery energy storage system. Otherwise, you cannot accommodate the additional requirement.
Yes, definitely, sir. Yes, sir. Okay, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Okay, thanks.
Okay, so the key purpose of this slide is to study the stability aspect of this devised active current control loop. So the characteristic equation I have mentioned here. So it can be inferred that the parameters like T, that is a time constant of the LPF, this is nothing but the 0.7 if I'm not wrong then. Okay, then beta is the convergence factor which I have taken as 0.5. Omega naught is nothing but the natural frequency in radian per second, that is your 340. So all these parameters, there is no sign change in the first column. Okay, and all these parameters are positive real number, and none of the roots found in this characteristic equation to be a positive real number, confirming the stability of this active current control loop. So further see this as I mentioned previously, the grid interfaced photovoltaic system frequently encounters challenges due to these frequent transitions in the solar insolation level and load perturbations. Okay, so I have studied the dynamic performance, and to do that, I have done the state space analysis. And one interesting observation that I would like to put in front of you is that here the it apparently the dominant pole of this system is far away from this imaginary axis. Okay, it can be seen that this is the dominant pole of the system, and it is located far away from this imaginary axis, and thus this 1 by T is fairly large. Okay, so what will happen as a result, the residue of this pole is very small, and its response will not last for a prolonged duration during the transient condition. So I have this, since I have made this claim, I have the supportive experimental results to prove this claim. So let me show you something like this. So see here, as I mentioned, this active current control loop decomposes the fundamental component of the load current from the input signal which is contaminated with the harmonic. So this is the input load current signal which is contaminated with the harmonic, and this is the output fundamental load current signal. So you can see that the output fundamental load current signal, there is a minimum steady state error. Further, I have studied the response of this active current control loop during the sudden transition in the load. Okay, so you can you can see that the proposed active current controller is competent enough to recognize the sudden transition in the load at a response speed of less than 1 AC power cycle. See here, it effectively recognizes the sudden transition in the load, and it tracks the fundamental component of the current, follows the change in the input load current, okay, at a response speed of less than 1 AC power cycle. On the contrary, as I mentioned, that what is the problem with the synchronously rotating reference frame theory, that it has an ingrained paradox between the steady state error and dynamic response, especially when it is exposed to the unbalanced loading. Okay, so see here, the load transition is enabled at this point. Let me consider this point as a T1. Okay, so load transition is enabled at this point. However, this reference grid current that is generated, see here, it takes 4 to 5 AC cycle to recognize the load transition. It is apparent that it takes almost 4 to 5 AC cycle to recognize the sudden load transition. Another interesting observation is that it results into undesired oscillations. See here, it results into undesired oscillations, whereas in this case, there are no such oscillations observed in the fundamental component of the load current. So the focal point of this experimental test is to examine the active harmonic filtering capability of the active current control loop. So apparently, when the active harmonic filter is disabled, the grid current is contaminated with the harmonic, and the stresses of the grid current and the load current are identical to each other. Okay. On the contrary, when the active harmonic filter is enabled, the grid current is ensured to be unconditionally balanced and purely sinusoidal. Besides, the grid current is in phase with the grid voltage, confirming the unity power factor of the active current control. Furthermore, a careful examination of plot C confirms that the voltage across the DC link capacitor, that's a 4th channel, okay, the voltage across the DC link capacitor is maintained well within the acceptable threshold during the entire operation, which proves the potential merits of this active current control. Okay, so this is the multifunctional PV inverter. As I mentioned, that this is a logical and inexpensive solution So why it is an inexpensive solution? Because it not only injects the active power generated by the PV arrays, but it also provides the harmonic solution, harmonic compensation. So see here, a fair comparison of the compensating current magnitudes during the active harmonic filter operation and during the multifunctional or PV inverter operation confirms the penetration of the PV inverter into the utility grid. So how it can be confirmed? See, in case of the active harmonic filtering operation, the active harmonic filter supplies only the harmonic component of the current. Okay, so it supplies the harmonic component of the current, and this way the grid currents are ensured to be unconditionally balanced and sinusoidal. However, in case of this multifunctional PV inverter, this PV inverter not only supplies the harmonic component of the current, but it also supplies active and reactive component of the current. So this magnitude here, you have this active component of the current, reactive component of the current, and harmonic component of the current. Okay, and in fact, even in case of the multifunctional PV inverter operation, again the grid current is in phase with the grid voltage, so unity power factor of operation is ensured even during the active power injection. And this is the three-phase compensating current stasis. Okay, so the increased magnitude of the compensating current confirms the penetration of the PV unit into the utility grid. Okay, even furthermore, the voltage across the DC link capacitor during the multifunctional PV inverter is maintained constant to its pre-disturbance level, that is your 100 volt. And this is the profile of solar photovoltaic voltage at the maximum power point, and this is the corresponding current profile at the maximum power point. Now further, as I mentioned that I have used the three-phase 4-leg topology. So I have investigated the application of the fourth arm of the inverter bridge for the neutral current separation. So here you can see from this plot A and plot E that when the AHF or active harmonic filter is disabled, okay, the load is unbalanced, and as a result the grid currents are unbalanced in nature. However, after enabling the active harmonic filter, the grid currents are ensured to be unconditionally balanced and sinusoidal. That can be witnessed from plot B and plot F. Okay, see here, after the active harmonic filter operation, the grid neutral current is reduced to 0. Okay, and here you can see that the active harmonic filter operation is disabled at this point, and as a result the neutral current is increased. So this confirms the application of the fourth arm of the inverter bridge. So in this case, actually the fourth arm of the inverter bridge is strategically controlled to provide the neutral current support, and this will ensure unconditionally balanced and sinusoidal grid currents on the utility grid side. So now let me show you the active power sharing feature. So in this case, I have developed the hardware. I have developed the downscaled hardware. Okay, so in that case, my line-to-line voltage is 60 volts. Okay, so what I have considered that the load demand at any point at given operating point, the load demand is always higher than the power generated by the PV unit. Okay. So let's assume that the load demand is 500 watt and the power generated by the 300 watt. Okay, so 300 watt will be supplied by the PV unit, and the residual load demand of that is nothing but the 500 minus 300, that is 200 watt, will be supplied by the utility grid. So a careful examination of plot A. Okay, it can be seen that when the PV inverter is disabled, okay, the active power supported by the utility grid is 124 watt, since the native power output from the PV unit is 0. Okay, now the reactive power supported by the utility grid is 48.2 VR. This is per phase. These quantities are per phase. Actually, this is not the three-phase quantities. So 124 watt per phase. Reactive power is 48.2 watt VR per phase, and the grid power factor when the AHF is disabled is 0.93. Okay, and the corresponding phase angle is somewhere around 21.25. Now when the shunt active power filter, during the shunt active power filter operation, the grid current is turned out to be sinusoidal. So in that case, again, the native power output from the renewable energy sources is 0. Okay, so again, the active power supported by the utility grid is 123 watt per phase. That is similar to the earlier case. But now you can see here that the reactive power supported by the utility grid is dropped from 48.2 VAR per phase to 16 VAR per phase, which confirms the reactive power handling capability of the proposed active current control. As a result, the grid power factor is improved from 0.93 to 0.92, which further confirms the unity power factor operation of the proposed multifunctional PV inverter. Finally, if you look at the plot C, okay, a close approximation of plot C confirms that in this case, the grid, the active power supported by the utility grid is dropped from 123 watt, see here, 124 watt to 58.3 watt. Okay, so how much power is supported by the PVs? That is 65.6 watt per phase. Okay, this is the and how much residual power will be supported by the utility grid? That will be 58.4 watt per phase. Again, the reactive power supported by the utility grid is further dropped from 16 VAR per phase to 5.42 VAR per phase, and the power factor is improved from 0.992 to 0.996, which further confirms the unity power factor operation of the proposed multifunctional PV inverter. So this is the active power sharing feature. So this feature is dependent that how much amount of renewable power is available at the DC side collector bus. Okay, so based on the renewable power availability at the DC side collector bus, active power will be shared between the utility grid and PV unit. So as I mentioned that some of you have asked that battery energy storage is not required. So this is correct. This is correct. Why? Because in this case you have the established utility grid to accommodate the additional requirement of the load demand. Okay, so if your PV if your PV unit fails to accommodate the load demand, then the residual load demand will be supplied by the utility grid. So you actually do not need the battery energy storage system in case of the grid interactive system. But if you want your PV inverter to mimic the operational characteristic of the conventional synchronous generator, okay, then you need to have the battery energy storage system. Otherwise, it is not required. So proceeding further, the harmonic spectra of the grid current is presented here for the different operating conditions. So when the active harmonic filter is disabled, the total harmonic distortions observed in the utility grid current is somewhere around 24.6%. Okay, and the grid current magnitude is 3.47%. Okay, on the contrary, during the shunt active power filter operation, the grid current harmonics are reduced from 24.6% to 3.3%, which complies the 5% THD limit specified in the IEEE revised standard 519/2014. Okay, see here you can see that there is no observable impact on the grid current magnitude. It is more or less same. Okay, the grid current magnitude when the AHF is disabled, it was 3.47 ampere, and now it is 3.42. So there is no observable impact in the grid current magnitude. Okay, but if I talk about the multifunctional photovoltaic inverter operation, you could see a significant change in the grid current magnitude. Now, so this is due to the fact that in the multifunctional PV inverter operation, the PV inverter not only injects the reactive and harmonic components of the current, but it also supplies the active component of the current, and therefore the active power supplied by the utility grid is reduced. Okay, and as a result, the grid current magnitude is dropped from 3.47 ampere to 1.68 ampere. Okay, so this experimental test is established to confirm the dynamic response of the proposed active current control when exposed to the sudden load perturbation. Okay, so apparently, see here a careful examination of plot A, B, C, and D. So here in this case, our sudden load perturbation is applied at this point. Okay, and the load is again restored to its pre-disturbance level at this point. So the voltage across the DC link capacitor is maintained well within the acceptable threshold. Okay. Yes. Any doubts? Okay. So here at this point, even so, this is the enlarged view of this grid current profile. You can see here that there is no undesirable oscillations in the grid current. Okay, and it follows. It effectively tracks the sudden variation in the load at a response speed of less than 1 AC power cycle, which proves the potential merit of the proposed active current control. So what is the observation in aspects of this active harmonic filtering? See, when the conventional synchronous reference frame theory is employed, the grid current is the grid current is observed to be distorted. It has a distortions and notches in the grid current. On the contrary, because it fails to generate the accurate compensating current, which results in the inaccurate harmonic filtering. On the other hand, when the PV inverter is operated with the proposed active current control, the grid current is observed to be sinusoidal, and it complies with the total harmonic distortion limit specified in the IEEE revised standard 519/2014. So these improvements in general, this confirms it confirms that the active current control is a competent candidate for the grid interactive photovoltaic systems. Okay, so so before we proceed further, if you have any questions, then I would be the happiest to address your queries. If the participants are having any question, they can pose the question.
Sir, one minute. Sir, Dr.
Yes.
Sir, in the implementation of the scheme, multifunctional, we are using ARM controller also, we are using display mode also.
Pardon, I cannot hear you. Could you please increase your...
Mr. Nilesh, your voice is not audible. Can you repeat the question again?
Yes, sir, because of that net connectivity. Now am I audible clearly, sir?
Yeah.
Yes,
your voice
yes,
is audible.
audible. Go ahead.
Sir, you are using one ARM controller, and along with that, you are even using the space board.
D-space, yes,
As far as I know, ARM controller is having full featured ADC and everything is available. So why to go for that separate displace board? Can't we implement complete algorithm in ARM controller? Or is there any specific thing because of which we the two controllers we have used?
See, the even in, you're absolutely right that even you can realize the closed loop control algorithm in the ARM Cortex. Okay, but the problem with the ARM Cortex is that you cannot have the real-time implementation. Isn't it? You cannot have the real-time implementation with these commercial cheap microcontroller like STM32, as I mentioned. Okay. Otherwise, you can have your closed loop control algorithm that is to be realized in the ARM Cortex. That's the only problem that I find. Another thing is that I find DSpace 1104 to be user friendly, because you have the graphic user interface, you have the inbuilt graphic user interface, and you can use this graphic user interface to monitor the internal signals. Okay, so that will be very helpful.
I think using ARM also we can implement it in real time. That graphical user part you are talking about, that is fine. But when we go for the real kind of PV systems as a like a product, then multiple controllers kind of things may not be accepted. So I guess
okay,
that.
so I think let me make you aware of this fact. Okay, pardon. So let me make you aware of this fact that the moment when I say real-time control, what does it mean? Okay, it means that I can, like, if I talk about in aspects of this PI controller, okay, then I can control the proportional and integral gains of the PI controller in real time. Okay. See, this is not possible with these ARM Cortex.
No, that is during tuning part only. Once you tune it.
No. Even when the hardware is in the operating condition, hardware is in operating condition, you can change the values of this PI and KP and KI, and you can see the impacts.
Yeah, that is okay. But once you decide upon that these are the values of KPI, that PI gains are needed, once that is fixed, that is during initial tuning part only. Now, once we tune it,
Huh?
that is during tuning
See,
part
see,
only. Once we tune it, then we need to fuse particular value. Every now and then we do not keep on changing that KP and KI.
yeah, that's fine. So see, the thing is that if you're not expecting a real-time control, okay, then ARM Cortex can also then ARM Cortex can also be used to realize this closed loop control algorithm. There is no second thought about that.
No, sir, but I'm not getting that. Why do you would like to do real-time KP KI tuning all the times? Once your system gets tuned one time,
Yeah.
finally we are supplying that, let's say, as a PV inverter, multifunctional PV inverter. We are not going to
Okay.
change KP and all that things. So once we fuse it, then that controller has to go ahead with that PI tunings, and it is working in real time. So
Yeah,
I'm not
it is.
getting
See,
the
okay. So see, it's not that every time I have to change the values of KP and KI in real time. Okay, once you have tuned it for a certain parameters, okay, it will work absolutely fine even for the steady state and even for the dynamic operating conditions. Okay, so initially I have used this DSpace 1104. Okay, so your question that why I had to switch from this DSpace 1104 to STM32.
Yes.
This was your question, okay? So actually my work primarily emphasizing on this DSpace 1104, okay? But one thing is that one of my colleague was already working on this STM32, and he had already explored this STM32. Okay, so I didn't choose the STM32. Instead, I have chosen this DSpace 1104 for my control algorithm implementation. But the problem with the DSpace was that I was facilitated with only 8 ADC channels. Okay, and I have a signals more than 8. So I had to use this STM32 only for the maximum power point tracking. Whereas for the voltage sourced inverter, I have used this DSpace 1104.
Okay, and DSpace does the 1104 does not have created any problem in implementing the algorithm as far as sampling frequency is concerned.
Actually, the thing is that, see, if you have the if the control algorithm that is being devised by you, if it is computationally intensive, okay, then the sampling time taken by the DSpace 1104 would be more. Okay, so you need to apply these block reduction techniques. Okay, so if you could somehow apply these block reduction techniques, you can reduce this sampling time to a reasonable extent. Okay, but if you still have the if you're still facing the computational intensiveness, then I would suggest you to go for the micro lab box.
Yeah.
Am I have I answered your queries?
Yeah, I got it. So what is the minimum sampling time you have chosen for your implementation with DSpace?
Okay, so for this synchronous reference frame theory, I have implemented this control algorithm for 35 microsecond.
Oh.
Okay, and for this active current control, I have used 40 microsecond.
Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, yes.
Sir, actually the DSpace is very costly affair. So can you suggest any cost-effective solution to implement all these algorithms for the particular
Yeah,
system?
the madam has recently suggested one of the wonderful commercial chip microcontroller, that is your ARM Cortex STM32. It will cost you only 15,000 if I'm not wrong. Then correct me if I'm wrong, madam.
No, it is even cheaper. We are talking about complete board. Discovery board
yeah,
is quite cheap.
It is cheaper if you just buy the motherboard. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
is there any other doubts?
Are even not there.
So, sir, I would like to know that how you have synchronized the operation of both the controller. One you have used DSpace and another you have used some STM32 microcontroller. So how you have synchronized both of these controllers
So
here
actually
in the
the
system?
STM32 has nothing to do with the DSpace 1104. So there is no such synchronization is required. Both
No,
are
means
used
what part of the
both are
algorithm
used to
you have
control the
developed in
independent constants.
STM32? What
See,
part
in
of the
STM32, in STM32, I have realized the maximum power point tracking. Okay. So it will generate the gate pulse for the DC to DC boost converter.
Okay.
Okay. So once the DC to DC boost converter will generate a constant voltage. Okay. That voltage, the same voltage will be appeared across the DC link capacitor. Okay. Now you have the voltage source inverter that kicks in, and that will control the DC link voltage. Okay. So there is no such requirement of synchronization between these two converters.
Okay, for DC to DC controller, you have implemented the control on
STM32
microcontroller, and for inverter, you have
STM.
implemented controller in DSpace 1104.
Oh, yes.
But even I have experienced that it is not possible to develop any controller in DSpace 1104 for the 4-leg inverter, because there is
No, who said?
limitation of ADCs.
No. There is, see. Okay, so I think okay. So let me tell you this interesting fact. Let me tell you this interesting fact that in case of 3-phase 4-leg topology, okay,
yes,
it is generally believed that you need to sense the grid neutral current. Okay, however, it is not required. See how you can compensate the grid neutral current. See here. Please pay attention to the slide. Okay.
Yes.
So what you can do, see, you can add these 3 reference currents, 3-phase currents. Okay. These are your actual currents. Okay. And you can compare it with the 0.
Yes.
Okay. So you actually do not need to sense the grid neutral current. Okay. So you can simply eliminate one sensor.
Definitely.
Okay. But still the problem is that you have three voltage signals, you have 3 current signals, and you have 1 DC link voltage. Okay, so total number of signals are 7, and you have only 8 ADC channels. Okay, so if I want to implement the maximum power point tracking algorithm, then I need another 2 ADCs. Okay, so this was the major issue with the ADC. This was the major issue with the limited number of ADCs with the DSpace 1104, and this was the only reason that I had to switch from DSpace 1104 to STM32 for realizing this maximum power point tracking algorithm.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Hope you are following me. Okay.
Yes. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay. Any other doubts, or should I proceed further? Okay, so now another control algorithm. So see here, this is the classical unit vector template algorithm. Okay, this is unit vector template generation control algorithm. Okay, the only problem with this control algorithm was that this control algorithm due to the distortions in the utility grade voltages and the DC component presence in the utility grade voltages, there is a steady state error in the reference grid currents, which is not desired, because this reference grid current essentially reflects the capability of the inverter to generate the compensating command and thereby addressing the power quality solutions. Okay, so if the reference grid currents are contaminated with some steady state errors, okay, then the harmonic filtering capability of this multifunctional PV inverter will be affected. Okay. So in order to minimize the steady state error, what I have done, I have used this characteristic of the PI for VPI, that is a proportional integral plus 4 vector proportional integral controller. So how I have come to this controller, how I have devised this controller. So I think since we have already discussed about the PI controller, I have mentioned in my previous slides that PI controller must not be used to track the AC voltage, to track the AC currents. Okay, this is due to the fact that it miserably fails to introduce the infinite gain, especially when exposed to the AC or periodic quantities. Okay, so conventionally, researchers have used the PI controller to track the AC current magnitudes. However, it results into the steady state error. So to avoid that, researchers have replaced this PI controller with the PR controller, that is the proportional resonant controller. Okay, so what is this characteristic of the proportional resonant controller? These proportional resonant controllers offers an generic solution to this problem. How it can offer? It provides an infinite gain at the interested resonant frequency. The moment when I say interested resonant frequency, it means if you want to introduce infinite gain at the 50 hertz, okay, then you can simply tune the PR controller at the 50 hertz, and when the 50 hertz signal is detected into the input, it offers an infinite gain. It offers, see, offering infinite gain, it means rejecting the 50 hertz component, okay, and thereby it minimizes the steady state error. But the problem with the PR controller is that its accuracy is affected when there is a change in the input frequency. So it is safe to say that the nominal line frequency, which is 50 hertz, it is not always constant, okay, and it may drift from its nominal line value of 50 hertz. So when it drifts from when there is a frequency excursions, okay, the performance of this PR controller is adversely affected, which is not desirable. So with an intention to address these detriments, I have replaced these PR controllers with the PI for VPI controller. Okay, so during the frequency excursions, these PI for VPI controllers offers a robust control solution and minimizes the steady state error presence in the reference gate currents. So I have used see how these PI for VPI controllers are designed. So you know the fact that even during the unbalanced condition, third order harmonic is the dominant. Then subsequently fifth, seventh, and ninth. These are the dominant components present in the reference grid currents. Okay, so I have tuned this PI for VPI controller, and that's why it is called as a for VPI, because it is tuned at 3 omega naught. That is, omega naught is the nominal frequency. So 3 into 50, that is 150 hertz. Then fifth, that is a 250 hertz, 350 hertz, and 450 hertz. These are the four components at which. These are the four interested frequency components at which I have tuned this vector proportional integral controller. So now it is essential to study the performance of the PI for VPI compensator against the classical PI-MR compensator and PI compensator. So a critical examination of this Bode plot reveals that the existing prevalent proportional integral based feedback controller introduces high gain at the lower frequency. What does it mean? Less than 10 dB. See here, you can see here when the magnitude is less than 10 dB, it introduces high gain. But as the frequency increases, the gain offered by the PI controller is reduces drastically. Okay, so PI controller cannot be used to attenuate the high order harmonic components. Okay, so as I mentioned that we had to switch from PI to PI-MR. But again, what is the problem with the PI-MR controller? That is a multi-resonant. That is nothing but the number of interested frequencies are tuned at a certain frequencies. So see here, the damped responses, I have presented the damped responses. So for both the PI-MR and PI for VPI controller, apparently the damped responses, apparently the phase margin with the proposed PI for VPI compensator is 179.8 degree, whereas with the classical PI-MR compensator, it is somewhere around 88.6 degree. What does it mean? If you have a higher phase margin, it means you will have a good damped responses and the stability of the system would be improved. This is one of the reasons that why the PI for VPI compensator is considered to be a promising supplement to its conventional counterparts like PI-MR compensator and PI controller. So this is the closed loop control algorithm. So I've studied the closed loop diagram. So earlier I have shown the open loop Bode plot. So based on this closed loop control diagram, I have plotted the closed loop response, and here it can be seen that it produces typically less than 0 dB gain. Okay, see this is dB. If I take it as an absolute, it will be at 1. Okay, so at 0 dB gain at the interested resonant frequencies of 150. See here, 150, 250, 350, and 450. These are my interested resonant frequencies. Okay, so it introduces infinite gain at this interested resonant frequencies, and thereby it helps to minimize the steady state error presence in the reference grid currents. Furthermore, I have studied the response of this PI 4VPI compensator against the change in KPH, that is the proportional gain of this PI compensator. Okay, so what happens if the proportional gain of the PI compensator changes? So I have studied for the three different values of the KPH. One is 0.5, 2, and 5. Okay, so it can be inferred from this Bode plot that the change in KPH value do not have the observable impact on the damped responses of this PI 4VPI compensator, which proves the robustness of the PI 4VPI compensator against the fluctuations in the KPH. Subsequently, I have studied the behavior of this PI 4VPI compensator against the change in inductance. Okay, so three different values of inductance are considered. That is a 3.5 millihenry, 3 millihenry, and 2.5 millihenry. Even at the different values of this inductances, there is no change in the damp responses. They are still offering infinite gain at the interested resonant frequencies, that is 150, 250, 350, and 450 Hertz. And this confirms that PI 4VPI compensator can be employed to minimize the stationary errors in the stationary errors from the reference grid currents. So I have these simulation results first. So here the utility grid voltages are contaminated with the harmonics. Okay, so look at this plot B. Okay, so during the time interval 0.05 to 0.1 second, the 0.1 second, during this period, the active harmonic filter is disabled, and hence the stasis of grid currents and load currents are identical to each other. On the other hand, when the active harmonic filter is enabled at t is equal to 0.1 second, okay, the grid currents are turned out to be a sinusoidal. Okay, at t is equal to 0.15 second, the PV inverter is enabled, and as a result, the power supported by the utility grid is reduced. See here, the power. I want you to pay attention at plot G. Okay, that is the active power sharing. Okay, the active power supported by the utility grid is reduced from 20.6 kilowatt to 7.47 kilowatt. This is due to the fact that the PV inverter injects an active power of 13.13 kilowatt. Okay, so this confirms the active power injection into the utility grid. During this, now what I have done, I wanted to test the performance of this devised current control against the step transition in the insolation. So a step transition in the insolation is applied from 1 kilowatt per meter square to 0.3 kilowatt per meter square at t is equal to 0.2 second, and the insolation level is restored back to 1 kilowatt per meter square at t is equal to 0.3 second. Okay, so even during this solar insolation change, just a moment. Okay, so I'll take another 5 minutes. So even during despite a sudden change in the solar insolation level, the grid currents are ensured to be balanced and purely sinusoidal. In fact, the voltage across the DC link capacitor is maintained constant to its pre-disturbance level, that is 690 volts. Okay, and the power factor is maintained to be unity. Okay, so this confirms the robust operation of the proposed PI 4VPI compensator. Similarly, the operation of the PI 4VPI compensator is verified against the unbalancing. So here you can see that at t is equal to 0.1 second, when the when the active harmonic filter is enabled, the grid neutral current is reduced to 0 from 21.21 ampere, which proves the neutral current support capability of the proposed inverter. Similarly, during the unbalanced voltage unbalancing and grid current distortions, the power factor is maintained constant at unity, and the voltage across the DC link capacitor is maintained well within the normal working limit. Now, so what is the improvement? See here, if you look at the grid current waveform during the PI-MR controller operation, it is you could see the notches and distortions in the grid current. On the contrary, when the PI4VPI controller is employed, the grid current is purely sinusoidal. Similarly, with the DC link voltage, the voltage overshoot and undershoot, and even the stationary errors in the DC link voltage is prohibitively high when operated with the classical PI-MR controller. But when you operate it with the proposed PI4VPI controller, the percentage voltage overshoot is significantly reduced, and even the stationary errors or steady state error in the DC link voltage is also substantially reduced. Okay, so I'll stop here. So if you have any questions, then you may ask me. Yeah, any questions? Sir, am I audible, Manoj sir?
Yes.
Yeah, so you can ask participants if they have any question, then they can pose the question. I am open to question.
Sir, will you be sharing this material?
Yeah, I'll be sharing.
Ma'am, we are uploading the video lectures in the Google Classroom. You can check there also. Okay.
Yeah. Any
Good
other
afternoon,
questions?
sir. Good
Yeah,
afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon.
Sir, usage in PI, basic advantage in power quality. There have any basic advantage regarding power quality?
Usage of proportional and integral controller.
Yes, sir.
See, the requirement of the proportional and integral controller is to regulate the voltage.
Voltage, yes.
Yes.
Power quality is improved.
Yeah, see, once you regulate the voltage, okay, the power quality
Yes.
will be improved.
My question is related to integrated grid system. If we connect a small grid, that voltage is definitely very low. There have no generate high rated voltage. At that condition, PI controller is any help?
No, sir, PI controller is required. It is essential. Okay, you implement even a standalone system or a grid interactive system. It could be any type of system. Okay, PI controller is must. You have to have the PI controller in the system. Otherwise, you won't be able to regulate the DC link voltage. Now, what is the impacts? If you fail to regulate the DC link voltage, it causes the steady state oscillations in the current control loop. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So PI control is generally employed in the voltage control loop, and if you fail to regulate the voltage in the voltage control loop, it causes the steady state oscillations in the current control loop, which is not desirable. Okay.
So control by the use of the PI controller.
Yes.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, in this control topology, the switching was generated with the help of PWM or hysteresis?
So I have used both hysteresis as well as the sinusoidal pulse width modulation.
Okay, so what frequency you have decided for PWM generation?
For the PWM, I have considered 5 kilohertz, and for the hysteresis current control, I have used 7.5 kilohertz.
But how you can decide the frequency in case of hysteresis current control, sir?
Yes, so generally, see, in case of hysteresis current controller, you decide the band. Okay. You decide the band, and based on this band, you can calculate the frequency.
Is there any literature or formula available, sir?
Yes, sir. The ready-made formulas are available. You can use those formulas to calculate the frequency.
Okay.
You can refer the literatures of Professor Mahesh Mishra from IIT Madras.
Okay.
You'll get these formulas. Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay. This PPT will be uploaded, sir.
Yeah, it will be shared. It will be shared soon. Okay.
Okay.
Any publication based on this
Yeah,
outcome
so
which we can refer, sir?
sir, madam, there are
Just
total,
you
you can
can
refer
show
my
if it is
site.
available.
I have a total of 15 publications in the journal.
Okay.
Okay, so I'll share my website URL with you. Okay, you can refer those publications. Some of them are published in IIT GTD, IIT Power Electronics, IIT Renewable Power Generation, then International Transactions on Electrical Energy Systems, Energy Sources Part A, in fact, International Journal of Renewable Energy Research and Energy Technology and Policy. I'll share the URL of my website. Okay, you are expected to refer these publications. Okay, you will have a more in-depth idea about the control structures
Yeah,
which
yeah,
I've presented.
yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Sir, one more question from my side.
Yeah, tell me.
Actually, I want to know that how you have implemented the PWM on DSpace.
Sir, it's very easy to implement the PWM on DSpace. See, these PWMs, ready-made PWM blocks are available in the DSpace.
Okay.
Okay, so even if you do not want to use that, what you can do, you can have the triangular waveform generation. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, you can have the triangular waveform generation, and you can compare it with this this steady state error that you have achieved by the comparison of the reference current and actual current. Okay, once you do that, you will have the pulse.
But sir, I experienced that makes the system or controller very complicated or complex, especially for the DSpace 1104 processor.
See,
So,
yeah, you are true to a certain extent. It makes your control algorithm computationally intensiveness. Okay, and this is why generally hysteresis current controllers are preferred over the sinusoidal pulse width modulation.
yes, sir. Yes.
Okay, but if you have the micro lab works, okay, then I would recommend you to go with the sinusoidal pulse width modulation.
Yes, sir.
You will have you will have a superior results as compared to the hysteresis current control.
Sir, actually what we are doing here, we are generating current references, na?
Yeah, we are generating the current references.
So, for generating PWM, actually we need voltage references.
No. Who said this? It's not required.
So how we are generating PWM, sir?
Oh. So
can you please?
okay. So let me explain this. With one example. See here.
Yes.
You need voltages, that is fine. Okay, but you have the PI controller. See, you cannot have the PWM without PI controller.
Okay.
We
are inserting some gain in between, na?
Yeah, so the gain is there. Okay, the gain is I think if I'm not wrong, I think you're talking about the multi-level inverters or normal two-level VSI.
No. I am talking about normal two-level inverter.
Yeah, so in case of normal two-level voltage source inverter, there is no such requirement of the gain. You can have the PI controller prior to implementing the PWM. Okay.
Okay, means after generating reference, we need to put
you need
PI
to have
controller.
the PI controller.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then only we can get the voltage or
Exactly.
similar kind of waveform references.
Yeah, then only you can have the expected response.
And then we have to compare these with some carrier
triangular
wave. Yeah, okay.
You can have the triangular, you can have the sawtooth.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you very much.